Shuka uvacha iti devarshina proktam nishamya bharatarshabha pujayam asa suprita krishnam cha prema vivalaha. Shri Sukha uvacha iti devarshina proktam nishamya bharatarshabha pujayam asa suprita krishnam cha prema vivalaha. Word for word synonyms. Shri Shuka uvacha. Shri Shukadev Goswami said, iti, thus, Deva Rishina, by the great saint Narada Muni, Proktam, described, Nishamya, hearing, Bharata Rishabha, the best of the descendants in Bharat Maharaj's dynasty, namely Maharaj Yudhishthir. Pujayam asa, worshipped, Supritaha, being extremely pleased, Krishnam, unto Lord Krishna, Cha, also, Prema Vivalaha, in the ecstasy of love of Krishna. Shri Shukadev Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhishthir, the best member of the Bharat dynasty, thus learned everything from the descriptions of Narada Muni. After hearing these instructions, he felt great pleasure from within his heart, and in great ecstasy, love, and affection, he worshipped Lord Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is natural that when someone belonging to one's family circle is understood to be very great, one becomes ecstatic in love, thinking, "Oh, such a great personality is our relative." When Sri Krishna, who was already known to the Pandavas, was further described by Narada Muni to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally the Pandavas were amazed, thinking, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead is with us as our cousin." Certainly their ecstasy was extraordinary. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. So this is beginning of 3 concluding verses of this chapter after this long interaction between King Yudhishthir and Narada Muni. And this verse brings up an important point, which is that after hearing, the result of hearing from someone who's in perfect knowledge, a bona fide spiritual master, about the whole process of entering into spiritual life, entering into pure devotional service to the Supreme Person, to Krishna. And that is what is being given by the bona fide disciplic succession. How to revive our eternal life, our blissful life, full of knowledge, which is unending. And if someone hears perfectly, with attention, usually for some time, then this is the result. He becomes very enlivened, very ecstatic that now I know what is the way I can finish this temporary life full of struggle and miseries, and how I can actually know the Supreme Person face to face. Just like in yesterday's verse, Narada finished speaking and he said to Yudhishthir how the Supreme present here now is that same Supreme Personality, whose true form cannot be understood even by such great personalities as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. So here we are sitting here and we're hearing that we can actually know Krishna, his form and qualities, even beyond that which is known by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. So this is the potency of hearing from someone who is empowered by Krishna. And especially for us, we should feel very fortunate when we're hearing, we're in the line, disciplic line coming from Narada Muni to Vyasadeva, who was especially empowered to write down the essential Vedic literatures, summarize all the Vedic knowledge, so that all of us in the beginning, at least the beginning of Kali Yuga, can understand the essence and apply it. So, by perfectly hearing, there's a verse that says, if one has a bona fide spiritual master, he knows everything. Because guru means one who is heavy with transcendental knowledge, so that we can understand both the material and the spiritual, in our relationship with both. Why we are here, why we're entangled in this material nature, complex condition, caught up by our own actions and then reactions to those. And then how we can finish those material actions and reactions, become free from that, and develop real affection. Develop our loving connection with Krishna. And as in this verse it says, after hearing these instructions, he felt great pleasure from within his heart. And in great ecstasy, love and affection, he worshipped Lord Krishna. So by proper hearing, as the Lord says, Prabhupada quoted in previous purport from 7th chapter, Maya Sakta Mana Partha, Yogam Yunjan Madashraya. So a Sakta Mana, when one is, his mind becomes attached to hearing, and Krishna says to just hear from me. This is the key. With mind attached to me, then surely you will come to me, free from all doubts. So this is the transcendental, we might say, mystical process. By hearing and considering these, in the previous verse it describes that that the Lord, he's worshipped by silence. So silence there can be understood differently, but silence means, yes, to refrain from these external speaking speaking and hearing. But hearing begins with hearing, and then have that quiet space where we can process what we've heard, actually consider it, and actually become enlivened. And that enlivenment is that by the process of hearing and applying what we've heard to our life, the Supersoul within the heart is so pleased. He's cleansing the heart from unwanted things, and he's enlivening us. He's creating faith in the whole process of devotional service, in the goal that is being presented. We're hearing everything. We're hearing about sambandha, gyan, our relationship, the process, and then we're hearing about prayojana, the ultimate goal of devotional service, the atma prayojana, the ultimate situation of the self when we enter into pure devotional service. And Krishna says, you can know me perfectly. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyashchashmi tattvataha. You can know me in truth. So, even the beginning devotee we can be so fortunate and so enlivened, even though we're not on the level of, like this verse, asakti. So asakti is attachment. It comes after ruchi, after there's some taste, after nishta, after being fixed in devotional service. So asakti is very elevated. The next thing is bhava, experiencing the emotions. But we can become attached to Krishna by hearing from Krishna, by becoming attached to the process and being convinced about that. nishta, we can be fixed in the process. And so we're not actually there, we're still got most of anartha nivritti to go through, all getting rid of unwanted habits and unwanted things that are cluttering. We keep seeing these unwanted things popping up, or, oh, here's some lust, here's some greed, some envy. How embarrassing. But still, by hearing, we can actually be fixed in the process and be attached. And periodically we get a little ruchi, little enough to keep us going. So the devotee is very, by the grace of the Supersoul, he becomes very happy and grateful and convinced, because it's a very conscious thing that I have a bona fide spiritual master. I have Vedic knowledge. And Prabhupada, this is what Prabhupada said, I created this International Society for Krishna Consciousness so we could come like-minded persons who are sincere about seeking out the truth could sit together and hear and become fixed in the process of devotional service. Can hear, can chant, and engage in practical activity. And then, as described in yesterday's verse, also the process of surrender becomes clearly understood. So what is our qualification to be as hopeful or more hopeful than persons who can't understand Krishna, like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma? Because they're absorbed in they're highly, how are they described? As qualitative incarnations of the Lord for specific process of creating and destroying the material condition. They're not able to be absorbed in Ananya Bhakti. They have this other service. So we should feel very happy if we have that opportunity. And I was just reading some verses from Prabhupada Saraswati's book, Chaitanya Chandramrita, and he was glorifying, he was talking about the fortune of those who get to associate with or hear from Gaura Bhaktas, the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said there's nothing more fortunate, and one can be connected to many great acharyas and actually enter into devotional service to Lord Vishnu and so many things, but there's no greater fortune than being able to hear from and serve the pure devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we have a little extra thing to be happy about, that we're coming in this line, this very pure and powerful line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is giving the highest thing as far as the fruit of devotional service. He's giving that very rare devotional service in the mood of the Brajavasis, all the way up to Madhurya Rasa. Of course, all the rasas within Vrindavan are very sweet and intimate. So this is our qualification, that we're connected in this line. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in the midst of this line, of this disciplic succession of the Brahma Sampradaya, Lord Brahma, then Narada, then Vyasadeva. Everything is written down. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered in and showed by his example how we can perform devotional service in this very disturbing age of Kali Yuga. And he recommended Srimad Bhagavatam as the Amala Purana. And, of course, we all know the chanting of the Mahamantra in service to Vaishnavas. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has a name, we've all heard, Vishwambar, which means to the maintainer of the universe. So I was thinking about this Lord Shiva, Lord Brahman, Lord Shiva, how they're creating and destroying, and this universe is coming and going. Spirit soul, who is controlled by his anadi karma, he's coming and he's wandering up and down in the universe. But if one is a very fortunate soul, and this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is another famous statement. He said that if one is very fortunate, after wandering up and down in this universe from higher planets to lower planets, then he comes in contact with a pure devotee, bona fide spiritual master. And by the mercy of Krishna, he gets Guru. And then by the mercy of Guru, he gets the Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of devotion in his heart. And then by watering that, by the process of hearing and chanting, he can become perfect and re-enter the spiritual world. So I was thinking how nothing in this whole material creation is sustainable. We talk about sustainable living. So everything is coming and going. But I, the soul, is eternal. So if I'm very fortunate, I'll understand, I'll be able to get free from my frustration of wandering up and down within this universe, taking birth and dying and rebirth and very miserable condition of life. If I'm sufficiently fortunate to understand what we've been given by this disciplic succession, I will be, if I'm favored by Guru and Krishna, I'll have the intelligence just to take only that activity and that process of thinking that will fix me in devotional service. And we can feel very happy that we have this very sublime processes in a very short lifetime, as opposed to previous ages and practices of great saintly persons who took thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or many births to become perfected. That in this very short lifetime, we can develop some love for attachment for Krishna and be very clearly on our way back home, back to Godhead, whether it takes one lifetime or a few. But we should feel very happy, and as Prabhupada was saying, as a person feels very proud in a good way, very happy thinking that I have this very famous person in my family. So we all get everyone sitting here has the opportunity. Feel very happy that he's coming in this very powerful line. Srila Prabhupada has given, and those who are following him will also be strongly connected. And very, very enlivened to take up the process of surrender, which means, through our own hearing and realization, accept what is favorable for our devotional service and give up that which is unfavorable. And we've all come to this fortunate position just by our connection to the line of devotees coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, what is our qualification? We may have some university degree or some kind of training, professional training or nothing at all. But our qualification is to actually appreciate our great fortune as far as our connection with the Lord and His devotees. And so this is the very blissful thing about Srimad Bhagavatam. It's presenting in hundreds and thousands of different ways, the process of devotional service and how it's coming and how we're receiving it. So we have a very clear picture. It's by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam we become, at least for that time, we become Krishna conscious. And if we can be free from unwanted thinking and acting, then there's so much room in our life for meditating on what we've heard and processing it and becoming convinced. So, simple point. I think I'll stop there if there's some discussion or questions.
Prithu Prabhu, can you read 79 and 80? That is, I neglect to let you know that those are going to be covered too in this class. But if you can read it and then,
Okay. All right, finish the chapter.
Yeah, finish.
Sure. I'll just chant through the verse. 79. Krishna Partha Upa Mantriya Pujita Pranyayo Muni Shrutva Krishnam Param Brahma Partha Parama Vismita. Narada Muni, being worshipped by Krishna and Maharaj Yudhishthir, bade them farewell and went away. Yudhishthir Maharaj, having heard that Krishna, his cousin, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was struck with wonder. This is the advancement of Yudhishthir and the Pandavas. They're living with Krishna their whole life as like cousin. But they're not. They don't think, oh, here's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the advanced devotee, just loving relationship with Krishna. Prabhupada's purport. After hearing the conversation between Narada and Yudhishthir, if one still has any doubts about Krishna's being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should immediately give them up. Asamshayam samagram. Without any doubt and without any defect, one should understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus surrender at His lotus feet. Ordinary persons do not do this, even after hearing all the Vedas. But if one is fortunate, although it may be even after many, many births, he comes to this conclusion, Bahunam janmanam ante gyanavan mam prapadyate. So Prabhupada's just reiterating about this fortune. Why one person is hearing the whole Vedic literatures and somebody else, by his good fortune, he gets a book at a concert and says, wow, look at this, and he comes and just tries to give his whole life to Krishna. And Prabhupada commented like that. He said, in India I could not get anyone to follow me. Everybody thought they knew everything, but they didn't want to take up Lord Chaitanya's process. Then I came to America, and all I had to do was tell these young Americans that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's like this and he's like this, and if you chant his name, you can. He said it was very easy, because they weren't. Anyway, we should know that we're the object of great mercy by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees. This is Lord Chaitanya's pleasure, and I'm sure it came up in yesterday's verse. As Krishna takes great pleasure in protecting and maintaining his devotees, rescuing, Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu, He's the merciful protector and friend of the fallen. So we don't know. Of course, Prabhupada said that I have created your fortune. So we know that much. Whether it's been over many lifetimes or special mercy. Another thing, I was in these verses in Chaitanya Chandramrita Prabhupada Saraswati. Anyway, he describes how Krishna, he empowers his devotee with Kripa Shakti, like the potency to just give mercy, just to be merciful. And this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood and actual process. He's just giving mercy. Of course, we have to respond. We have to be responsible. We have to how are we able to respond? So we have to stay healthy by giving up those things that interrupt our devotional service and by accepting those things which enhance our devotional service. This is the beginning of surrender. So then we're able to respond to what the Lord is offering. Jitendra, you had something?
Remember, Srila Prabhupada, he used the word hodgepodge. He says, I'm presenting Krishna as it is, not some hodgepodge thing.
Right.
So that word just kind of stuck out in my mind.
Yeah, it's not mixed up or confused. It's very clear. Some people complain that, Prabhupada he's talking about the same thing on every page and every purport. He's very clear. He has to repeat it 100 times for our Kali Yuga brains. And so that we hear it from different points of angles of vision, is the term, so that it may not sink in when we hear it from this angle, but when it comes from this angle, or, after 360 degrees, finally we may be fortunate enough to get the real thing.
He also said that we have to constantly run these things through our minds,
Mm-hmm.
this philosophy, Then I heard another expression. It said, God is not the author of confusion.
He's not
He's not the author of confusion.
The author of confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because running it through our mind, meditating on it, it's Cheto Darpana Marjanam. It's because Krishna is the supreme pure, like the sun will dry up the ground very quickly after the rain. So, or in the morning, the dew is evaporated. So it's just absolute truth that if we put ourselves in the Krishna sun, then we become cleansed from impurities. It's the absolute and ultimate of cleansing programs. You have something?
I have one question, but there's also text number 80.
One more verse.
Yeah, one more verse. But and that's the end of the chapter. But I do have a question. If you want me to ask it first or read the verse.
I can finish the verse. There's no purport.
Yeah.
Iti dakshayaninam te pritag vamsha prakirtitaha devasura manushyadya lokayatra characharaha. On all the planets within this universe, the varieties of living entities, moving and non-moving, including the demigods, demons, and human beings, were all generated from the daughters of Maharaj Daksha. I have now described them and their different dynasties. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th Canto, 15th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. question by
So,
Subal Prabhu.
you were explaining how the process of hearing, just by taking the process of hearing, then one becomes attached naturally to Krishna. And I was just thinking that in our regular practice, it's no doubt when one is engaged in daily hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting your japa and doing regular hearing and chanting, is very easy to maintain that process of hearing, and there's no doubt that there's some attachment. I appreciate. I've been thinking just like you can't wait to see what's the next, the next verse that is coming on Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's like I guess people becomes attached, to a TV serial or something like that. Okay, what's the next chapter or thing? But it takes just to neglect a little bit, and then the attachments just start to dissipate.
If we
So,
neglect
if we neglect, yeah. So
the
it's
regular hearing and chanting.
regular hearing and chanting. So it's the attachment is not necessarily. It's almost like depending on the sadhana process of regular hearing and chanting. Is not. Can we call that attachment, or is it on
It's
its way?
attachment. Beginning stages, yeah. If we're fortunate. This is, and if we get mercy of the devotee, the pure devotee, the devotees around us. There's a verse, I can't remember the Bhagavatam verse, that in the association of devotees, this hearing and chanting becomes very sweet. It's pleasing to the mind and to the heart. So, and if we're a little experienced, even sometimes we become unregulated. We become reminded by the very bitter, instead of sweet, the very bitter workings of the material world. And if we see ourselves, even due to neglect, being a little disconnected from Krishna, so then, and it's the kindness of Maya Devi to, send us running back with our tail between our legs to take shelter again. So, but especially in the beginning, we have to be very, that being fixed or having some attachment may take a little time. In the beginning, we get something called shadow attachment. It's the special mercy of Guru and Krishna. We love it. We just forget everything else, right? I was talking with Bhakta Mitch. Just drop everything else. Say goodbye to our family, bye to our girlfriend. Forget our college education. It's just like, wow, this is ecstasy. This is what I've been looking for. And we should feel like that. We've been wandering all over the universe. We've finally got what we're looking for. At least we've been introduced to it. And like a student, if we keep going on in the coursework, we just keep taking the coursework semester after semester, year after year, and attentively hear, apply ourselves to the process, we're going to get our degree, and we're becoming qualified to do that thing that we want to do. So devotional services, it's a process, and in the beginning, there may be some difficulties, but if we continue, then we become more and more convinced, more and more attached. And anyone else? Any other questions?
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for your class. Wonderful class. You were speaking of good fortune, and well, since you guys are not here often, but one thing I want to mention in regards to association with you and Mother Donna Kaylee is that I had the good fortune of being there the first day that Daitsa met you guys on a university campus in of fall of 2006. I don't remember, but that's the day he described he first met you when we were on the campus. And I'll never forget that day because I was just learning how to play mridanga. And one of the other devotees said, "You're not good. Can you let somebody else play?" So I never forgot that.
They said, you're not good?
Yeah. So that actually inspired me, after I was angry to actually improve. But my question is regard to it mentions in this verse, the first verse you read, after hearing, the verse says, one part of it, after hearing these instructions, he felt great pleasure from within his heart. And well, the only thing I can remember, it reminds me of one instruction actually I got last night, you could say, from Jitendra. I always have these nice instructions, or they're in the form of conversations. And one profound thing he mentioned to me, it was very profound. And many devotees do it also. He said last night, or whenever recently on Sunday, he was like, for 3 hours, I washed the bathroom and toilet. For 3 hours, I washed the bathroom and toilet. And most people are like, okay, what's so profound about that? But the reason I appreciate it is because we see that there's all the devotees, they're making so many sacrifices. But you don't get recognized for it. And like, for example, we'll use example, generally speaking, when somebody donates or writes a big fat juicy check, it's like Haribo, Haribo. But there's so many devotees who are sacrificing their life for Krishna to the best of their ability, and they're not looking for credit. There's so many. I'll explain some specific stories about devotees, but it's not to minimize the people who are. Every devotee is glorious. It's not to minimize the devotees who are donating or anything, because in chapter 12 of the Gita, Krishna says that actually that offering donations and writing big fat juicy checks, that's actually an aspect of devotional service. But he mentions that the highest platform of devotional service are those who are making a conscious effort to transform their consciousness from porno prema to Krishna prema, from ruchi for kuchi to shushu shoshada dinasya vasudeva kata ruchi. Please forgive, I'll beg for forgiveness later, but there's a reason. So my question is basically is that a lot of times we see, and I did it in the beginning, I'm the first to admit that many times before, I would do my services, pot washing, slaving, and I was minimizing other devotee services. I was saying they're not humble, they're not helping me out so much, but then Krishna gave me some reactions for that. My hand would get sliced up washing dishes. And so then I'll always wash the dishes. So I mentioned this many times in class. So my question is basically, what are some steps we could do to give up this tendency of minimizing the sacrifices and services of devotees who are not in the spotlight all the time, because certain services are not in the spotlight, and avoiding the tendency to exalt ourselves? Because I'm the first one to admit, I mentioned it many times in class before, is that I thought I was the greatest Vaishnava. I'm doing so much sacrifices. Is there anybody humble in creation as me? I'll admit that, and I'll always fault find. But then Krishna always giving me reactions for that. So, and then I can understand. Then I found out what Vaishnava Prabhu was later on. I was like, why is this happening? I didn't make any connection to it. And so, what are some steps we could do to, appreciate devotees? Because it's hard to appreciate devotees when you don't see them doing service. Just like one last point, it's appreciation. Rakta Prabhu. You know what he told me? He tells me, all the time. He said, I stopped going to the festivals and like Sunday feasts. When his party starts after the feast, he says, I sleep during the feast, and then I clean the bathrooms and all the whatever services have to do afterwards. But nobody ever sees that. So it's hard to appreciate devotees who, are sacrificing, the only time you appreciate them is when, you don't see them because they have a back spasm, they're injured or sick from sacrificing so much. So what are some steps we could do to not minimize devotees we don't always see all the time, or we criticize and think we're so much better than all the other devotees? So anyway, I have the utmost respect for you. There's people express their Krishna consciousness in different ways. That doesn't mean you're minimizing everyone. I have the most love and respect for devotees, all of them. So, people may criticize, but that's my consciousness. Devotion is what your consciousness is. So maybe you can answer that question. So please forgive me for, if it seems disrespectful, but everyone has their different expressions of devotion for Krishna. So.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's a good question. Important question for all of us to process. There's two things: to be able to appreciate every devotee, and also to guard against that mentality, that thinking we're something special, which is dangerous. It's like we're taking a little, dangerous position. But by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and hearing about what is a pure devotee, we can be humbled in that way. And hear about, if we know what is the process of devotional service and the development of faith from Shraddha to Prema, and what that entails, the qualities of someone who's engaged in pure devotional service, unalloyed devotional service, then we won't make this mistake of thinking ourselves advanced and being, at least within our own mind, critical of other devotees, which is dangerous to our advancement. And then if we actually offend by our words or bodily offense to another devotee, then our devotional creeper can be seriously stunted or ripped out. So we have to hear, we have to actually be clear about, what is the process, and just feel fortunate that we can take part. And hear about the great devotees. They're considering themselves not even a devotee, or like a worm in stool. Krishna's Kaviraj. Great pure devotees of Lord Chaitanya. They've Haridas Thakur, so many persons they wouldn't, I'm so fallen, I can't go near Jagannath temple, or I don't want to have to even brush against one of the pujaris, I'm so fallen. And the other thing is to just think, would I enjoy just cleaning a bathroom? Do I enjoy going to the dirtiest place when everybody else is resting or doing their sadhana and cleaning? So can appreciate that those devotees, they must have some wonderful meditation and conviction that just by doing this simple service, I'm cleaning my heart, I'm pleasing Krishna. So they're fixed in service. Prabhupada said, whether one is dressing the deity or cleaning the floor, he said it's the same thing. Krishna sees it the same way, according to the mentality of the devotee. Yes, I'm just trying to please Krishna, clean this floor, clean this bathroom. Or someone can be dressing the deity and be inflated in their conception of their own identity, thinking, oh, now I'm a most important devotee, I get to dress Krishna. Krishna he'll be more pleased with the sweeper and cleaner. So it's our own consciousness. We have to be trained. By hearing, we can be trained, and also by engaging our senses and doing those simple things, and doing menial service in the association of devotees, and just seeing how devotees are serving and they're happy, they're satisfied. Not thinking. Otherwise, if we have a inflated conception of ourselves as a devotee, we can't be satisfied. We won't be pleasing Krishna. Krishna's there in our heart. So it's a challenge to always be meditating on serving and chanting in a humble state of mind. I just read that last night. I'm beginning Yogeshwar Prabhu's book on Prabhupada's life, entitled Swami in a Strange Land. Very nice. Anyway, he gave the story. He was talking with Prabhupada's interaction with his godbrother O.B.L. Kapoor, who appreciated Srila Prabhupada's great enthusiasm and pure chanting. And his godbrothers were starting to appreciate And Prabhupada was still a householder. But he said everywhere he went, Prabhupada would be chanting or singing, walking to work, always bead bag in his hand. Even at work, his bead bag would be on his desk. Before his lunch, after his lunch, he'd be chanting. And so this godbrother said, Abhay Prabhu, some glorification. Only if I could be as enthusiastic as you. Said, if there's some secret, if it's a secret, maybe you can tell me. What is your secret? And Prabhupada said, it is not a secret. He said, but I know the formula. And I know the formula. So I can tell you. And he said, Tranada pisa nichena tora pisa ishnana. Amanina manadena kirtaniya sadari. So as humble, as lowly as the straw on the street, as tolerant as the tree. So this is, we can meditate on this verse forever. Can anyone remember how that was saying? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said string on this verse, string the holy name of the Lord on this verse and wear it around your neck? Or is that? Oh, good. Krishna Chanamatani.
Prithusrava Prabhu, the first verse of the three that you read. Okay, the first verse of the three that you read, Maharaj Yudhisthira is having understood that Krishna is within his own family. He's feeling great love and affection, and with the worship of Krishna. So in many situations, one finds that persons who are intending to do some worship of Krishna or perform some service for Krishna are putting their family member in front and saying, this will benefit my family member doing this service. So how could one take this fantastic example of Maharaj Yudhisthira, with his understanding, even though Krishna is a family relative, he, obviously has the wonderful understanding that allows him to worship Krishna. And then once in practical situations, one's confronted with persons who are going to perform that service and are busy saying, I'm thinking about mine, they'll mention a particular relative. This is going to be, I'm thinking about my relative when they talk in relation to some service. Like, let's say, for instance, a child will benefit. So they're not necessarily thinking of Krishna first as the object of worship in thinking to perform that service for Krishna. So if you have any thoughts on...
if we're thinking of some material benefit for ourselves or our family members by worshiping Krishna, we could say that's good because it's connected to Krishna, but it's not the most advanced position. And to enter into pure devotional service, we have to go beyond that I'm serving Krishna just because that's my constitutional position and I'm so attracted to Krishna. My constitutional position is to satisfy Krishna by my service. I don't have to, and Krishna knows me, he knows my family connection, everything. I don't have to, this is not pure devotional service to have any motivation for serving. But after sufficiently hearing about the glories of Krishna, we just feel so fortunate to be able to, again, after almost eternal forgetfulness, anyway, at least to come to being to the platform of really loving devotional service. It's not anyway, to answer your question, it's not the pure thing, but if we're doing some service in connection, connected to the bona fide to civic succession and actually, to the bona fide temple worship of the Lord, then purification will come, should come. If it doesn't, if the false ego is becoming bigger, then there's something wrong. Any other comment on that? Otherwise, Maharaj Yudhishthir, all his questions were answered and more. He was understanding the greatness of Krishna and the process of pure devotional service, and he was just overwhelmed with love and affection and ecstasy. And love means I just want to give, I just want to serve. We become selfless. And if we know everything, if we know about Krishna and the process of devotional service, that we know if I just give myself to this devotional service, everything for myself and anyone related to me, all auspiciousness will come. It's the best thing I can do for myself or anyone or the whole world. So, anything else? Okay. Oh, Jitendriya's got one more bit of wisdom from Jitendriya.
About the process could be added. I remember reading, people come to Krishna consciousness out of material exhaustion, or they become materially exhausted by associating with devotees. I don't know if you heard that one before.
Is that a comment or
I forget where I read that, but
They become materially exhausted by associating with devotees?
Well, that's the second part, but
okay.
They come to Krishna consciousness out of material exhaustion, or become materially exhausted by associating with devotees. But it also said that the conditioned soul never tires of the three modes of material nature. So he's always bouncing off one or the other, or a combination of both. So
it's our great fortune, one way or the other. We become materially exhausted. Yeah. And Krishna's devotees have the potency of helping us with that.
Thank you.
Material exhaustion, so we can actually take shelter of Krishna. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your attention. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki